to, this person who replaces Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister and Liberal candidate for Prime Minister in the next election will only be in office as incumbent Prime Minister for maybe, a couple of weeks. This new Prime Minister will then lead the party in the ensuing election, which, could be in early April if the non-confidence vote happens in late March. And then that person, if the polls are to be believed, will almost certainly lose in a big landslide election to the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre, who will then become the next Prime Minister. Depending on how long the Canadian election campaign lasts for, which is a kind of variable, Pierre Poilievre could become Prime Minister, I guess, in like mid-May or something. So in other words, we would basically have a year of 3 prime ministers in this country. We would have Trudeau serving until the end of March. Then we would have some new prime minister serving from April to mid-May or something. And then we would have Pierre Poilievre as the new Conservative Prime Minister from May onward. That's kind of the rough approximation of what we're sort of settling in for. So the immediate criticism is that this is a big stunt, that, Prime Minister Trudeau is kind of playing games with the political system, with the Prime Ministership, merely to kind of save his own party from, likely certain doom. His party is presumably still facing certain doom, but, I guess Trudeau can rest easy knowing he won't be the face associated with it. Some other prime minister will be the fall guy, or I think more likely, fall gal. The best case scenario, I guess, is that this new prime minister somehow, wins the hearts of the Canadian people in a way that Trudeau has been unable to recently. And this new prime minister sort of boosts the fortunes of the Liberal Party, and that she becomes a very strong opponent to Pierre Poilievre and, I guess, pulls off a surprise upset victory at the very last moment. This is obviously a big stretch, but this is really the only sort of justification that you can use to, defend a process like this. So yeah, it looks like Canada is likely to have a year of 3 prime ministers. I personally think this will bring a great deal of instability to the Canadian government at a time when we're, facing looming threats of tariffs from Donald Trump and all sorts of other challenges. But the Canadian political system is set up in such a way that it is very easy for the interests of the country to be rendered subordinate to the interests of the political parties who run it. I'm now going to get to work on writing a more thorough script about this whole situation for my regularly scheduled video this weekend. But let me know in the comments below what your immediate thoughts are on this dramatic day in Canadian history.